Hey, viewers and viewers, my name is General Red Strategist, and welcome back to So You're Being Hunted. Time rather, for another podcast-style episode. In fact, it's possible I may actually record a couple as part of this one little recording session that I'm having this evening, because thinking about, some of the stuff that I have on my brain at the moment, there could be enough content here for me to do a couple of episodes at the very least, potentially. We'll see kind of how it goes. But just for a bit of context and all that, recording this episode on the 17th of July. Those of you, of course, who are subscribed to my YouTube channel, as well as those of you who are following me on my my Twitter and Facebook pages, you will be obviously more than aware that on Tuesday the 16th of July there was no upload for that day, and I had posted sort of messages actually saying that there would be no upload. And, of course, some of you may be sort of wondering why that was. Why did I suddenly just decide there were going to be no uploads that day? Well, honestly, it's because I basically didn't have a chance to upload anything that day. So, obviously, Monday, the 15th of July, that day, obviously, I did do an upload, but you'll probably have noticed that it came fairly early in the morning, before 7 o'clock in the morning, in fact. Usually, basically, ladies and gentlemen, if you ever see an upload on my channel come out sort of very early in the morning, the reason for that will be because it'll be a work day where I have to get up very early, because I've got, I don't know, like teaching or a meeting or something like first thing at my place of work. So, obviously what I always try and do before obviously I set out for work is, apart from my usual morning routine, I'll make sure to actually publish whatever episode is due to go out on the channel that day. Of course, plenty of other days, you'll notice that obviously some of my videos, my default uploads, might not come out until later in the day, maybe 10, 11-ish. That's usually because I either have a working day which maybe doesn't require me to be actually in my office at work quite at that time, quite so early in the morning, or maybe because it's a day where I don't have any actual teaching or admin duties that would require me to be actually on site, so instead I can do them from home. Hence why, I tend to sometimes get up in plenty of time and then just maybe scroll through work emails and just respond to pressing things like that, then maybe mid-morning, once I've got through all of that, just take a moment to release whatever episode needs to go on the channel. So yeah, that's what you'll notice on Monday 15th. That day's upload came very early in the morning, and then there was no upload on Tuesday 16th. Well, the reason for that was because I was away for a couple of days with a couple of work colleagues. We basically, as part of my sort of course design responsibilities for my work, I've been helping some of my colleagues design a module sort of particularly related to kind of like leadership and naval affairs, things like that, where basically as part of the plan for it, we're going to be doing a kind of like an over-glorified field trip sort of thing, essentially. I mean, field trip's not really the right sort of term, because that makes it sound like something you do in high school, whereas obviously, the courses I'm involved with are all sort of university level. But you get the deal. Basically, as part of the course, we're going to take the cohort out from the site for a couple of days away to various locations. And so, the plan is to have some visits in London, some down in Portsmouth, on the south coast of the UK. And so on Monday, we were in London, and we visited some really, really interesting locations. I have to say, probably the real sort of standouts for me from visiting London was in the morning on Monday, when basically sort of in line, with the kind of naval/maritime theme of the course, we visited a couple of company locations, Howdens and Lloyd's. Now, what I mean by that is Howdens and Lloyd's are two sort of separate firms, though technically Howdens is part of what's known as the Lloyd's kind of umbrella, to put it that way. But if you don't know what Lloyd's is, I mean, some of you might be thinking, do you mean like Lloyd's the bank? Something like that? No, 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 no. I mean Lloyd's the insurance underwriters who have quite a long history of providing sort of marine insurance, so insurance to the shipping industry. I think it's Lloyd's goes back, I think it's like to the 18th century, it goes back, if my memory's serving me correctly. And essentially it was basically a place where kind of like ships owners would go, because obviously, the thing like with shipping is, especially like big vessels carrying huge amounts of cargo, that's a lot of very valuable stuff on board that needs insuring in case something goes wrong. Say, like if the ship gets lost at sea and all that cargo that it's carrying is just basically lost to the ocean. And as you can imagine, the insurance costs for that kind of thing are pretty huge. So, Lloyd's as a company just basically exists to help with and provide insurance underwriting. So, as part of our sort of field trip that we're planning, we're hoping students could visit places like Howdens and Lloyd's and basically hear from sort of industry professionals about sort of kind of basically the industry view of sort of maritime and international security affairs going into the future. Because the thing is, when it comes to things like marine insurance, so insurance for like the shipping industry, things like that, obviously insurance companies, they have to be really kind of on the ball in terms of they have to have market researchers and people who are thinking about the future international environment and what that's going to look like. So where might the conflicts and conflicts lie? What might be the big sort of international security issues, particularly related to the maritime space, which are likely to affect the shipping industry and cause all kinds of problems, and which might therefore have an impact on insurance rates, that kind of thing. So, whether that's thinking about obviously like the war in Ukraine at the moment and the ramifications of that for the Black Sea and for shipping going through there, or like the Red Sea, for instance, what with everything that's been going on over there. So it was a really fascinating visit. First to go to Howdens and then to go to actually Lloyd's. And Lloyd's, itself, the building in which Lloyd's is actually set is a real remarkable piece of architecture, and it's fascinating when you actually go inside it. It's the first time I've actually been in it, and let's just say, stepping into these very sort of rich corporate offices is like entering a whole other world. So like with Howdens, for example, we sort of went Howdens basically was in one of the big sort of skyscrapers in the City of London, very big sort of financial district, and it has basically offices spread across several floors within that building, and is hoping to eventually take over more floors within it. So we had to take the lift right up to one of the real high floors where you get massive, fascinating, fantastic views across the City of London. Really, really impressive. So, we talked a little bit there about all kinds of stuff related to marine insurance and sort of the international maritime security environment. Then, of course, we went across to Lloyd's. And that was fascinating because if you've never seen the building that Lloyd's, the Marine Insurance Corporation, is housed in, definitely have a look at it on Google, because it's a very striking looking building. Obviously it's a very big skyscraper, but it's interesting because a lot of like the pipe work and the duct work and everything, and like the elevators aren't actually inside it. They're sort of like, they form kind of like the shell of the building along the outside, and then of course that frees up a lot of space on the inside for more like offices, things like that. But obviously because Lloyd's originally was a company that started hundreds of years ago, obviously that building that's in at the moment, that obviously is not historically where it was situated. It used to have an actual historical building that it occupied in centuries gone by. But if you go into obviously the modern Lloyd's building, you will see there are certain rooms where basically what they've done is they've taken the decor and furnishings of the original Lloyd's building and they've literally reconstructed them inside this really modern, kind of modernist architecturally modernist building, which is fascinating because they had, for example, like a lecture hall and then like a big sort of meeting hall on one of the upper floors, which is clearly a reconstruction of a historical site. And then if you sort of take the escalators up through the building, eventually you come to the underwriter's floor, which is this massive, massive open plan office space. And one of its defining features is that in the middle it has this thing called the Lutine Bell, which is an old ship's bell. And apparently whenever there's sort of big events that happen in the world with huge, potentially massive geopolitical ramifications, it is sort of tradition that someone basically rings that bell. So basically the Lloyd's sort of representative who was basically guiding us around explained, for example, 9/11 was a big event where they rang the bell, things like that. But yeah, the Lutine Bell was originally from a ship. It was originally a ship's bell, sort of, making that connection, of course, with Lloyd's maritime routes. Now, I'm pretty sure Lloyd's as a company doesn't just sort of do marine insurance anymore. I think it does other stuff as well, like insurance. I think they mentioned in like the sort of the space environment for like satellites and things like that, or for like cyber risks and all kinds of stuff. So, God, yeah, it was a really fascinating visit over in London, and that was definitely a highlight. Because, like I say, it was just like stepping into a whole other world, stepping into this amazing sort of like corporate world that is just so far removed from anything you've ever experienced before. Very sort of plush, very modern office spaces. And of course, you can tell there's some filthy, obscene amounts of money sort of going through those offices. I mean, not that I'm saying any of it's illegitimate. No, that's not what I mean at all by that. What I just mean is, it's huge amounts of money. Because, of course, it's the shipping industry that it primarily insures and all that. So I imagine whoever is at the very top of that corporate ladder, I imagine they are, rolling in their millions, if not hundreds of millions, I would imagine. Indeed. So that was Lloyd's and Howden's. Very fascinating. The other place we went to the Cabinet War Rooms under Whitehall, which are obviously historically significant for being in World War II. Locations where obviously Churchill and the British and Commonwealth commanders often congregated during the years of, for example, the Blitz. There was a lot of war planning that went on under there. It's actually the second time I've actually been to the Cabinet War Rooms, but the first time I actually went to the Cabinet War Rooms must have been quite a few years ago. I wouldn't be surprised actually if it was over a decade ago, probably like on a visit when I went up with family. So it was good to go back there again, sort of refresh my memory of the place. But it was interesting actually because we got to sort of see a little behind the scenes with it, because obviously as we were visiting it on behalf of a course, we got to basically talk to one of the events personnel who showed us a series of function rooms that the place has, which is kind of fascinating to me because I could understand maybe hiring the place out obviously for like educational visits or corporate functions and things like that, but they even apparently do like wedding parties. They can even house those in some of their larger function rooms, which I always thought was kind of interesting. Like, does anyone actually ever? I mean, they must do if they're offering this as a service. It must be economically viable for them. But I'm sort of curious, does anyone actually have their wedding reception in one of the large function rooms of the Cabinet War Rooms? Doesn't seem like the sort of place that I would have thought people would choose as a sort of a wedding reception venue. But hey, I guess each to their own and all that. But no, Cabinet War Rooms is always well worth a visit if you're ever visiting London and you're interested in particularly sort of World War II history. Obviously, it's one of those things where I think it helps if you can sort of book your tickets in advance, because otherwise, you do have to queue up, and the queue can get quite big. So, worth a visit, but plan your visit in advance, I guess, is the key point, ladies and gentlemen, for you to all to bear in mind and all that. So yeah, that was London, and then basically once we were done with that, we hopped in our hire car and we zoomed off down en route to Portsmouth, which was a drive that took about an hour and 40 minutes-ish. The only thing is, though, the weather on that visit was very indecisive. For the most part, it was fairly dry and reasonable. But then, as we sort of began taking the train out of London just to get back to where we parked our hire car, the heavens bloody opened up. It just an absolute downpour. And, for a moment we just sort of hung out in the station, in the train station, just thinking, if we wait here for a few minutes it'll probably blow over. Nah, it didn't. It kept going and going. And, it was just on and off rain then as we sort of drove out of the Greater London area down to Portsmouth. Took the A3 down via the Hindhead Tunnel, which I've actually never driven through before, so that's another first right there, ladies and gents. But yeah, so, you know what, yeah, I think we will. I will actually split this conversation over 2 episodes, because, you know what, I'll reserve this first episode for, talking about the London visit, about Lloyd's and all that. And I hope you'll join me for the next episode, where I'll continue on this topic of conversation. I'll get recording it straight away. Well, I'll talk about some of the stuff we did in Portsmouth, because we did an absolute freaking ton of stuff while we were down there. Now, I have talked obviously about Portsmouth before in one of my videos, because I've been there before and all that, particularly, talking about the historic dockyard and whatever. But, whilst we were sort of down in Portsmouth, I visited a few sites which I've never actually been to before, so there's something new to it. So I hope you'll join me for that next episode, where I'll talk about that, ladies and gentlemen, give you some tourist recommendations in case you're ever sort of in that area. So yeah, join me for that. As usual, I've obviously already mentioned my social media links, Propagandist channel links down below as well if you're interested in that. And other than that, it's me signing off now, folks. Goodbye, everybody. I'm trying to remember how this works. I think I have to hit him in the legs, like so. Oh! Aha! Come on, Double H, I need you in here. Yep. Oh, there you are. Shit! Take out the other leg. That's it. Oh god! That just landed on me. Have it. Take it out, take it out! Go on! That's how it's done. Oh god, that didn't work. Oof. Jeez.